Karnataka. An overwhelming of more than 330 participants have registered to the program, making it one of the most anticipated FDP among the participants. Right now, there are 134 participants, 135 participants who are still joining. We hope all of them will join in coming time. I also extend our chief guest, Professor Lakshman Nandagiri sir, from National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, Suratkal. He is an eminent academician and researcher who has graciously accepted our invitation to inaugurate this FTP and also deliver his first session. We are truly honored by your presence, sir. Thank you. Brief about this program. This faculty development program is centered on the sustainable management of natural resource and waste. The objective of this program is to create awareness and impart knowledge and skills of faculty members and research scholars in the sustainable practice related to the utilization of natural resource and implementation of effective waste management strategies, fostering environmental responsible teaching, research, and community engagement. We are extremely grateful AICTE ATAL Academy for sanctioning and sponsoring this FDP, thereby providing us the opportunity to organize a significant program under the. For the course of next 6 days, participants will have the privilege learning from a panel of outstanding experts from premier institutions and industries who bring with them the vast experience and research expertise. Their contribution will undoubtedly enrich this program and inspire us to adopt sustainable solutions in our academic and professional pursuits. With these words, I once again extend my heartfelt welcome to all the dignitaries, participants, experts to this program. Now I kindly request Dr. Anil S. Paul to introduce our chief guest, Professor Lakshman Nandagiri, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. It is my great honor and privilege to introduce today's chief guest, Dr. Lakshman Nandagiri, sir, Professor in Department of Water Resource and Ocean Engineering at NITK Suratkal. Sir obtained his BE in Civil Engineering and ME in Hydraulics from the University of Mysore and later completed his PhD in Water Resource Engineering from the prestigious IISc Bengaluru. With illustrated career spanning over 4 decades at NITK Suratkal since 1985, Sir has contributed immensely in the field of hydraulics, water resource engineering, hydrology, irrigation and drainage, water resource management. His research interests includes catchment, watershed hydrology, irrigation scheduling, soil moisture modeling, climate change, impact on hydrology, and the application of remote sensing, GIS, artificial neural networks. As a professional academician and guide, he has successfully supervised 12 PhD scholars, 71 MTech dissertations, and 30 BTech projects. He has also completed 7 sponsored R&D projects funded by reputed organizations such as ICAR, ISRO, AICTE, and TechCube, along with 11 consultancy projects for HAL, MRPL, MNPT, and Government of Karnataka. His scholarly contribution includes 44 referred journals papers, 53 conference papers, 9 book chapters, 3 co-author books. In recognition of his work, he has received several honors such as British Hydrological Society Overseas Fellowship in 1998 and 2004, and multiple Best Paper Awards at national and international conferences, including ICWEES 2016. Dr. Nandagiri sir, as a fellow of Indian Institute of Engineers and life member of ISTE and Indian Science for Geometrics, he has also served the nation as a member of expert appraisal committee for River Valley and Hydropower project under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and Government of India. Apart from the academics, he has delivered over 100 invited lectures across India with several talks broadcasted All India Radio. His international academic visits span the USA, UK, Brazil, and the Netherlands and Australia. With such a exemplary academic research and professional career, Dr. Nandagiri truly stands as a role model in the field of water resource and hydrology. We are indeed privileged to have him with us today as a chief guest of this AICTE adult sponsored FDP on sustainable management and natural resource and waste. Sir, here we welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So over to you, sir, for the session, sir.
You want me to start the session on water resources or some comments about general comments now? Because I was supposed to start that at 6:30, no? That's what
Yes,
you
sir, we request you to deliver the inauguration speech, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much to VTU and specifically to Hiremat, Dr. Hiremat, and the other coordinator, Anil Paul, for having invited me for this inaugural program of the FDP on a very important and very relevant topic, sustainable management of natural resources and water. I'm extremely happy to be part of this inaugural session and also to deliver the keynote lecture soon after this inaugural session. Now, very interestingly, the title of the FDP is very interesting because it talks about natural resources and waste and sustainable management of both of them. However, I think among all the living species on this planet Earth, I think it is only we human beings who have this wonderful capability to convert natural resources into waste for our own benefit. I don't think any other living system, whether it's the vegetation or whether it's the animal kingdom, I don't think they are able to convert natural resources into waste at the scale at which we human beings have been doing this for centuries. So much so, since 2007, this current geological era has been named as Anthropocene, given the fact that at no other time in the history of the planet have human beings exerted so much influence on the planetary system. And therefore it is called Anthropocene with regard to the anthropogenic activities. Now, unfortunately, as I said, we do not have this concept of a circular economy when it comes to utilizing natural resources, whether it is water, whether it is the land resource, whether it is forest, whether it is minerals, which are absolutely essential for human growth and human development. Unfortunately, we don't have a circular economy built into the utilization, wherein the waste is generated and recycled and reused. Probably the best example that we can learn from is if you look at a plant or a tree and see how a plant or a tree grows. It utilizes sunlight through the process of photosynthesis. It builds tissue, carbohydrates, it grows, and the leaves of the tree, which are responsible in this process, after some time will die, wither, die, and fall to the ground. Unlike human beings, however, the fallen leaf does not get converted into a waste. It is a biodegradable material. It degrades and it provides the organic material that is required for the growth of the plant again. So we see how beautifully this has been designed as a system where the circular economy is built into the system itself, where the waste that is produced is actually recycled and reused. Unfortunately, we human beings don't seem to have learned from such systems which exist right in front of our eyes. Human beings have been very, very short-sighted, I think, when it comes to development. And I always give this example of the automobile. You know, prior to the invention of the combustion engine, the major mode of transport in most European nations used to be the horse-drawn carriage. That was the common mode of transport for people, wealthy people especially. But as the wealth grew and as the number of horse carriages started growing in number in Europe, they got into a major environmental problem. And I'm sure all of you can imagine what that environmental problem was. With such a large number of horses, the dung that was being produced by these horses, they found it very difficult to dispose of. So they had to take this dung and throw it outside the cities and the towns. And this in turn led to major pandemics, epidemics, and diseases, because it was polluting the entire atmosphere and the soil also. So at that time, in 1885, the internal combustion engine and the petrol engine was invented, and the first automobile was invented and put on the roads of Europe. People thought it was one of the greatest saviors, which was saving the people from the environmental pollution that was happening because of the horse dung. And they were very happy with it. But I don't think the inventors of this automobile, in their wildest dreams, would have imagined that 100 or 120 years later, this very same automobile would be causing another major kind of pollution, which is the air pollution that we see today. 75% of the carbon dioxide emissions in Asian countries comes from vehicular pollution. And I don't think anybody at that time imagined that this would happen 100 years later. Now today we seem to be going again in a circular fashion. And today we talk about the electric vehicle as being a great savior for us. It is going to replace the internal combustion engine. The petrol engines will stop. The diesel engines will stop. The electric vehicle will not lead to any pollution. However, people must realize that studies today are showing that the production of electric vehicles and batteries has a much bigger carbon footprint than the production of an equivalent petrol or automobile, diesel automobile, simply because so much energy is required in the production of the batteries, and it has a huge carbon footprint. And added to that is the problem that now we suffered because of air pollution. Now the electric vehicle is going to give us another kind of pollution problem. What do we do with the dead batteries? How do we dispose of the electric batteries that are going to be produced in millions and millions from now on? And studies already are showing that such batteries, when disposed of indiscriminately in landfills, can lead to severe pollution of surface and groundwater and the soil, because there are very hazardous chemicals that are there in a battery. Nickel, cobalt, lithium, these are all deadly chemicals which are going to be released into the atmosphere. So what I'm trying to say is that while the petrol and the internal combustion engine replaced an environmental problem and created a new environmental problem, the electric vehicle is going to replace one problem with another major problem. So we seem to be going with a very short-sighted approach in developing our technologies. And there is an urgent need for especially the younger generation to think in terms of how waste, recycling, and reuse is not thought of as a post-mortem thing that we do, but it becomes an integral part of the design and production of many of these types of systems. So I am very happy that this FDP has attracted such a large audience. More than 300 people from across the country are participating in this program. And I see from the schedule that very interesting topics are being covered, both with regard to natural resources and also with regard to various types of waste. And the new generation has to think in terms of these emerging pollutants which are being released more and more into the atmosphere and into the land systems, whether it is the e-waste or whether it is the pharmaceutical waste which is being generated in a large quantity. How do we dispose this off? And another major problem that India has still not addressed is what do we do with all the nuclear waste which is being generated in our nuclear power plants? We have not even addressed that issue. We are simply dumping it in one place and thinking that we'll do something about it later. So that is going to become another problem for the 21st century. At least by the end of the 21st century, the problem of nuclear waste disposal is going to become a major challenge for the human race. So I hope that this FDP serves as an eye-opener to the younger generation, especially. We gray-haired people, we have destroyed everything, and we are not leaving the younger generation with anything that we can be proud of. So we are sorry for what we have done, and I sincerely hope that the younger generation will take this as a challenge and build a world which is going to be cleaner and more healthy, secure, and safe for not only human beings, but all the living beings on this planet Earth. With these few words, I once again thank the organizers, in particular my student, Dr. Hiremat, for having invited me here and given me an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such appropriate and narrative theme for our inauguration program, sir. And we are very grateful to have you as our first speaker also, which will start in few minutes now. We also have our chairman of the Department of Civil Engineering, Dr. Nagaraj Patil, here with us, and we would request him to raise the occasion and talk to you.
Okay. Once again, good evening to all of you. It's nice to see a large crowd on this evening. I would like to invite the today's chief guest, Lakshman Nandagiri sir, for this once again for this FDP program. I feel that this FDP program is one of the most relevant here. If you see sustainable management and natural resource and waste, both now if you see in this current trends of climate change, what we have done to our entire globe, we are trying to face the uneven pattern of rainfall, and duration of rainfall are changing there. And this is because we have not managed our natural resources properly from the last 4 or 5 decades. And this FDP will definitely address all those issues and throw a light on the lot of researchers and students who are joined for this workshop, how to tackle this problem and what kind of research that has to be addressed in the future. That is very important that this FDP will done there. And one more thing is they also added about waste. So everything, whatever we are trying to do is trying to generate waste, and how to manage this waste and how to utilize this waste is also one of the very challenging issue here. And I definitely feel that this FDP will definitely throw some light on how to take up this waste and how to manage this waste there. Once again, I would like to once again wish a very good luck to both the organizers, Professor Chandrasekhar Hiramat and Anil Paul, who has taken a lot of pains to organize this workshop, and my colleague Babu Reddy, Mechanical Department Chairperson. Also wish him thanks for all his support for this workshop. I request all the participants to take the advantage of this workshop. And usually what happens, there is such kind of workshops, everybody online workshop, they just join and afterwards they engage in their day-to-day activities. But I request all of you to take advantage of this workshop. If you see the list of speakers, they are very eminent persons from the various different fields. And it is a very relevant workshop for your research as well as for the practicing engineers to make very much advantage of your applications there. Once again, I wholeheartedly wish all good luck for this workshop to all the participants as well as the organizers there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your kind words with regards to this FDP. And hope you will also be contributing something in the coming sessions as given in the schedule. And we will see you soon during the session. We have another chairman from Department of Mechanical Engineering, Dr. Bapu Reddy sir. And we also request him to talk few words regarding this FDP. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to see such a large crowd here. That's too for a topic like this, sustainability. Usually this is considered as a kind of easy subject, but still, I've seen more than 300 registrations. I'm quite happy and thank you for joining us. And all the concerns that Dr. Lakshman sir has shared I'm completely agree with him. And if you remember in one of the Matrix movies, he says human race is like a virus. It multiplies everything and destroys the whole system. And to great extent, we have lived to that expression, I believe. At least I'm worried about our own kids. How will they live in this very polluted environment? Air, water, and all element of the universe is polluted because of us. And despite all this, there are people who are trying to make it work, make it sustainable. And of this, I congratulate the Department of Civil Engineering for taking up this job of this FDP. and more than 300 people have joined. Even if 10% of the people carry this message forward, I'll consider this to be a great success. Thank you one and all for joining. Best of luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your words, sir. You will see that majority of people will be benefited from this session. I request Dr. Anil Paul to present the vote of thanks, and so that we can start the session.
Thank you, sir. On the behalf of VTU, Belgavi, and the organization team of this AICTE ATAL sponsored FDP on sustainable management of natural resources and waste, it is my privilege to deliver vote of thanks for today's inauguration ceremony. First and foremost, I extend our thankful gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. Lakshman Nandagiri, sir, Professor NITK Suratkal, for gracing this occasion with his esteemed presence and for his inspiring inaugural address. Sir, your valuable insight have set a right tone for this program. We are deeply grateful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Dr. S. Vidyashankar, for his vision and constant encouragement. I'll also take this opportunity to thank our Registrar, National Evaluation, Finance Officer, VTU Belgavi, for extending their kind cooperation and necessary support in organizing this FDP. I sincerely thank our respected chairpersons of Department of Mechanical Engineering and Department of Civil Engineering for the guidance and the encouragement. Special note for the appreciation to our coordinator, Dr. Chandrasekhar G. Hiramat, for his leadership and for his commitment, effort in successful planning and this event. We also extend our gratitude to the AICTE ATAL Academy for sponsoring this FDP and providing such an important platform that empowers faculty members with knowledge and innovations. Finally, I thank all the participants, faculty members, and ongoing committee for their active involvement and enthusiasm. Your presence and contribution will ensure make this FDP a fruitful and enriching experience. With these words, I once again express my deep sense of gratitude to everyone who is contributed to the success of this inauguration. Thank you. Now I would like to Dr. Lakshman Nandagiri, sir, to start the session, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Is that visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible, sir.
Oh. So thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to make a presentation on one of the most important natural resources, which is water. And I have been working in this area of water resources development and management for more than 40 years. And I have seen the way this particular resource has been mismanaged. And yet at the same time, there have been some very positive developments that have happened. So the presentation that I'm going to make today is going to focus on how do we manage water for a sustainable future. And since this audience is very diverse, we have people from across the country participating. Most of the data and the statistics and the information that I will be presenting will be for the country as a whole. So with this as a background, let's look at this topic of sustainable water resources development and management. To any audience, I don't think to any human being, we need to highlight the importance of fresh water. If at all there is life on this planet Earth, it is one of the most important resource for the existence of life on this planet is water. And therefore, it is rightly known as the lifeblood of the biosphere. And today, we are having realized that life and water are intimately linked. Life cannot exist without water. We are now searching the entire space and trying to see if other planets have this resource. If they have this resource, then we will probably find life there. And if that resource is available in plenty, maybe by the next century, we may even think of establishing colonies where water is available on many of these planets. It is an essentially bodily fluid. We cannot survive more than a few hours without consuming water. And unfortunately, we always look at water from a human-centric approach, whereas we must realize that water is not only required for human beings, but it is required for the entire ecosystem. And the ecosystem functioning is critically dependent upon the presence of water. From the viewpoint of human beings, we have found many, many uses for water. Primary among them is for agriculture and food production. We also use water for industrial processing and production, waste removal. We generate power, hydropower using water. And it's also very important for us in terms of providing us peace of mind and joy through the recreational value of water. Water has this natural cleansing function also. It is indispensable for us for that purpose. So these are but a few of the uses of water, and we can go on adding to this list, but I will not do that. This is just to give you an idea that water is absolutely essential, one of the most important natural resources. If you look at the availability of fresh water on this planet, I'm sure all of you have seen this photograph of the Earth taken from the moon by the Apollo mission. And what we can see there is that the Earth looks like a blue spinning ball. And in the background there, you can see the African continent also. And the presence of water on the planet gives its blue color. And the water that is present in the planetary system, the Earth's system, is within the hydrosphere. And the hydrosphere broadly extends from about 1 kilometer below the Earth's surface to about 10 to 12 kilometers into the atmosphere. And the important thing to remember is that the total amount of fresh water or the total amount of water within this hydrosphere is a constant. From the time this water was formed on the planet, since then, the total amount of water is the same. So when we talk about water scarcity, it is not that the total amount of water within the hydrosphere is reducing. No, that is not happening. But the per capita availability of water is reducing. That is what we mean by scarcity. Very little new water is formed during volcanic eruptions, which is a negligible amount. So for all practical purposes, the total amount of water within the hydrosphere is a constant. And we can see that out of that total water, 97% of it is saline water, which is in the oceans. And there's about 2% which is trapped in the glaciers, the mountain caps. And it is only about 1% which is literally available as fresh water for use. But that 1% is quite a large quantity. And in principle, they estimate that about 8 to 10 billion people can be sustained with that 1% of water. And from the viewpoint of human beings, we look at water resources as either being surface water resources, water which is present in rivers and lakes, and the groundwater resource which is present within the subsurface, within aquifers. But in reality, nature does not make any such distinction. It is a single continuum. What is surface water in one place can become groundwater in another place. What is groundwater in one place can become surface water in another place. So there is a continuum which exists. But for our own convenience, we divide this into surface water and groundwater resources. The other good thing about water as a natural resource in comparison to many other resources such as minerals, unlike minerals which are not renewable, water is a renewable resource. What we mean by that is at a given location, even if you extract water, that water is going to be replenished the next year, within the next 1 year. However, we must remember that we should not be extracting more than what can be replenished. And later I will show you some statistics of how we seem to be doing that. So this is regarding the freshwater availability, and central to water resources and hydrology is this concept of the hydrological cycle or the water cycle, which most of us would have studied in school, where we look at how water is transported throughout the planet. And you can see that it's a global process. It is solar driven. There is movement of water happening from the land surfaces to the ocean, from the ocean to the atmosphere, and from the atmosphere back to the land and ocean surfaces. And within that hydrological cycle, there are many, many processes which are taking place, extremely complicated processes, which are not sequential in nature. Many of them may be happening concurrently. And also, in addition to transporting water from one location to another location, the hydrological cycle also is intimately linked to the energy cycle or the energy balance, because there is a phase conversion which happens. Liquid water is converted into vapor, for which energy is consumed. Vapor is condensed back into liquid when energy is released. And there can also be solid water, which appears as snow and later forms glaciers. So we have the transport of water and also the phase transformation of water happening within this hydrological cycle. And for any water resources engineer and for good management of water resources, it is extremely important that we understand the working of this hydrological cycle. And unfortunately, human activities are making major modifications within this hydrological cycle and also the associated climate cycle. So both of them are intimately linked. As you can see, rainfall and land processes are intimately linked. Now, when it comes to water resources development and management, the key issue is that naturally available water does not match human requirements. What I mean by that is, naturally available water is never available where we want it. It is never available when we want it, and it is not available in the quality that we want it in. And therefore, the whole idea is that we must somehow try to overcome this mismatch which happens between naturally occurring water and human requirements. For example, if you look at the uneven spatial distribution of water resources across the globe, I've just highlighted two examples there. Asia has about 36% of the world's water resources, but unfortunately, Asia also has 60% of the world's population. Whereas you see South America, for example, has 26% of the world's water resources, but only 6% of the world's population. So there is an immediate scarcity situation which appears in Asia in comparison to the South American continent. So there is a huge uneven distribution of naturally available water across the globe. And there is also a mismatch in the time at which water is required and the time at which rainfall takes place. And especially in tropical countries like India, let's say that rainfall occurs within a very limited period during the year, specifically about 4 months of the year, the southwest monsoon. It starts in June and ends in September, and it brings almost 90% of the annual rainfall, which is delivered within those 4 months, with the remaining 8 months being almost dry. So water is not available throughout the year as we would want it, especially in tropical countries such as India. Also, the quality of water, naturally available water, does not match the quality standards that we human beings expect, either for drinking or for irrigation use or for industrial use. So there is a requirement to, major requirement today, especially since we are contaminating and polluting naturally available water resources, there is an increasing requirement for overcoming this mismatch also. So the whole domain of water resources development and management must look at these critical issues. And if you look at the spatial distribution of water resources in the country, you can see that India's annual water resources has been estimated at about 1,953 kilometer cube. That's quite a large number. In comparison to many other countries, we are reasonably well off in terms of the water availability. However, the spatial distribution is highly uneven, with about 62% of that annual water resources being available within the Ganga, Brahmaputra, Barak system. And another 10%, crucial 10%, is within the west flowing rivers of the country, with the result that it's only 28% of the resource which is available for the remaining part of the country. So therefore, large part of central India, peninsular India, is largely semi-arid and has severe water scarcity issues because naturally available water is not available as we would like it. So human water resources development and management has progressed significantly, and I always take this example of the story that we used to read in school about this very intelligent crow which wanted to drink water from the jar and started putting pebbles inside to raise the water level. But I think the modern crow has become much smarter. It has begun to use a straw to take out the water. So the point that I want to convey here is that we are using bigger and bigger and newer technologies to extract water. We are drilling deeper and deeper to extract groundwater. So how far will we go to satisfy human water requirements? And if you see the water use consumption over the period of 1900 to 2000, you can see that it is after the Industrial Revolution, which is about 1950 onwards, you can see there has been an exponential increase in the water withdrawals, global water withdrawals for multiple uses, agriculture, industry, and municipal use. And the annual increase in water withdrawals has been growing at the rate of 3%, whereas human population has grown only at 1.5%, which means that average human being today is consuming more water than his ancestor. And we are literally playing the zero-sum game, or we have to rob from Peter to pay Paul, because the total amount of water is fixed, and about 87% of India's water resources goes into the agricultural sector, and the remaining is shared between the domestic and the industrial sector. So if the domestic sector wants more water, we have no other option but to take it away from agriculture and give it there. Or if industry wants more water, we have to take it away from the agricultural sector and give it there. So this is the zero-sum game that we are playing. And as I'll show you later, this can lead to situations of conflict also. So the whole domain of water resources development and management has always focused on matching availability with demand. And we have looked at it with a kind of a selfish approach. This is the amount of water that I want. Where will I get it from? So we have always tried to enhance supply, extract more water. If it is not available nearby, I bring it from somewhere else. So we are extracting water and conveying it over longer and longer distances to satisfy urban areas. And to overcome the problem of the fact that rainfall occurs only during a limited part of the year, we are creating storage, reservoirs, dams, reservoirs where we are storing water so that we can use it during the summer season. And to make sure that water is available in the right quality, huge treatment of water resources, fresh water is taking place all over the globe. And the main objectives of water resources development has always been human welfare and economic growth, basically a human-centric approach. Whether this has been the right approach, we will see as we go along. There are many significant achievements with this approach. We have achieved a lot during the last 100 years in India, especially with regard to water resources development and management. So let us look at some of the positive things that have happened. For example, if you see the conveyance, as I said, we are transporting water over longer and longer distances to satisfy urban requirements. And I think we have set a record with New Delhi, where water today is being brought from the Tehri Dam, which is located more than 320 kilometers away. And almost all other major metros and cities of India, you can see there are listed. Water is being transported over at least 100 kilometers. Even Bengaluru receives its water from the Kaveri River, which is more than 100 kilometers away. And since we are transporting water over such long distances, today there is a nexus or a close link between water and energy also, because we need energy to pump water over these long distances. So energy can become a major constraint in water supply and water resources development. So that is another thing that we must focus on. And we are also thinking in terms of interlinking, interbasin water transfers. And this is a proposal which has been put forth several years back. And not much headway has been made in this, except for one or two of these links. None of the others have come through. I think it's only the Ken-Betwa link which is currently operational. The others are still in the planning stages. So unlike what people usually believe, that we will join the Ganga to the Kaveri, it is not really so. There is a Himalayan component where the rivers within the Himalayan region will be connected to each other. And there is a peninsular component where peninsular rivers will be connected to each other. And many such components, as you can see, are listed there. And you can also see the estimated cost. Those number of zeros are quite astonishing. Anyway, this is there in the pipeline. It has still not seen the light of the day. Maybe sometime in the future, people will become serious about this when the scarcity becomes really bad. India has also created large storage. We can be proud of the fact that India is a world leader when it comes to irrigation, especially building dams. Total storage that has been created in India is of the order of 250 kilometer cube, and we have more than 4,700 large dams in the country. But given our high population, the per capita storage that we have created is not as good as many other countries. For example, even China has double the per capita storage that we have. So there is a requirement for creating more per capita storage. But I don't think large dams are anymore an option because of the serious environmental concerns that people raise when large dams are built. So the future is not for large dams. So we may have to think of large number of small dams as an optimal solution. So this is with regard to the storage. And as I said, India can be very proud of the fact that we are a leader in agriculture. We are number one in terms of irrigated area. We are number one in terms of producing pulses. We are one in milk production and livestock production. We are second in many of these other things, vegetables and fruits, for example. So we can be proud of the fact that we have made significant achievements in the agricultural sector. So when it comes to the issue of water quality, current figures suggest that the total amount of wastewater and sewage which is generated in the urban areas of India is about 62,000 million liters per day. And currently we have a capacity of treatment plants, which is able to treat about 37% of that. Untreated wastewater sewage is still a large percentage. As you can see there, we still have a long way to go. 63% of untreated wastewater sewage is even today released into our water system. So there is a significant opportunity for improving the wastewater treatment in the country. So these are some of the positive things, but there are negative issues also. The water scarcity, which I spoke about earlier, the per capita availability, we were at a very healthy figure of 5,000 cubic meter per person per year. So when I talk about this water availability, it is about not just about drinking water, but it is literally the water footprint of a person. The total amount of water that is that is required for drinking, for sanitation, for the food production, for the production of all the clothes that we wear, the automobile that we use, all that goes into it. So it's effectively the water footprint. And from 5,000, slowly but surely, with an increase in population, we have gone down, and we have reached a figure which is less than the water stress line, which has been declared by the United Nations, 1,600 meter cube per person per year. And if we continue with the business as usual, it is expected by 2050, we will go below the water scarcity line, which is 1,000 meter cube per person per year. So this is a grim reality, water crisis, which is looming in front of us. So this is something that we need to be really scared about. There are many other issues also with regard to water. If you look at water stress in India, stress being defined as the water withdrawals divided by the water availability, you can see that a large part of India, especially southern India and northwestern India, is in that bright, dark red color, which indicates a very high stress level. Northeast and certain parts of the eastern India are somewhat better, but this is a cause for concern. And we also have issues with regard to water quality. More than 100 million people in India live in areas of poor water quality, both because of human activities, water pollution, water contamination, which is happening. And in addition to that, there can also be natural reasons why water will be unfit for drinking. Arsenic contamination, fluoride contamination is also an issue in large parts of especially eastern India. So this is a cause for concern. We also have the fact that India is one of the largest consumers of groundwater in the world. No other country in the world extracts as much groundwater as India. You can see from the chart there, we are far ahead of even the United States in terms of water withdrawals, groundwater withdrawals. And more and more irrigation wells are being dug in the country. Almost 1 million new wells are dug every year. And farmers are slowly but surely shifting away from surface water resources, from canals to groundwater for irrigation purposes. So this is again a cause for concern, and this has led to the problem of groundwater depletion happening. 54% of India's groundwater wells are decreasing. Permanently, they are getting depleted because of the high extraction levels that are happening, especially for irrigated agriculture. We are also getting into a situation where we have disputes over water, major interstate river disputes are there in the country. All the major rivers of India, there are disputes between the riparian states, whether it is Punjab and Haryana or Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat. Karnataka, for example, has a long-standing fight with Goa and Maharashtra. Karnataka also has a dispute with the Kaveri, with Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Puducherry. The Krishna is also under dispute. Godavari is under dispute. Almost all the major river systems in the country are currently under dispute because of the fact that water is becoming more and more scarce, and sharing of water resources is becoming a critical issue. In addition to the within state disputes, India also has major disputes with our neighboring countries. We have a dispute, as we all know from recent times, with Pakistan over water. We have a dispute with Bangladesh. We have a dispute with China. I always jokingly say the only neighboring country with whom India doesn't have a water dispute is Sri Lanka, because we are not connected physically to Sri Lanka. Otherwise, probably we would have had a dispute with Sri Lanka also. So this is a cause for concern, and these fights and these disputes are only going to increase in the future as the scarcity goes on increasing. And in addition to that, as I said, the anthropogenic activities, human activities, land use, land cover changes, urbanization is leading to changes in the hydrological cycle. We are accelerating the hydrological cycle, giving rise to flash floods, and urbanization is causing that, as we read in the newspapers and watch on TV every day about the massive landslides that are happening, the flash floods that are happening, especially in the Himalayan region. All this is associated with the land use, land cover changes that we are doing with the system, and we continue to make major modifications in the land use, land cover, which is causing problems. The other major issue is with regard to the climate change and global climate change as major implications for water supply. Changing patterns in rainfall can lead to changing patterns in water availability. Changing patterns in evapotranspiration can lead to changes in the hydrological cycle. In addition to the changes, the impacts that climate change has on many other sectors, sea level rise, changes in agricultural yields, impact on forests and ecosystem, and most importantly, impact on human health. So this is also another major challenge that we are facing, and this is only going to get aggravated in the years to come unless we do something very seriously about the carbon emissions. So with all these negatives, we have to sit and do a post-mortem analysis and try to understand what went wrong. Where did we go wrong, and why did we come into this kind of a situation? I think one of the reasons why we have fallen into this trap is because we have not understood the strong linkages that exist between natural systems and human systems, especially when it comes to natural resources utilization. So if you take, for example, the natural resource land, we as human beings, for crop production, livestock, and fuel and timber, we enhance land, we modify the land. And because of this, we are able to produce food and satisfy human beings. But there are negative feedbacks that happen because of this: deforestation, overexploitation, overgrazing, erosion. These are all negative feedbacks that come from land enhancement, and that in turn affects the primary resource. The land itself is getting degraded. Similar thing happens with water resources. We want water for domestic use, irrigation use, industrial use. So we perform various types of water enhancement techniques, and all to satisfy the human being. But we must recognize that there are negative feedbacks that happen: water pollution from domestic water, from industrial water, waterlogging and salinization, which in turn puts a constraint on the primary water resource itself. So we are stuck in this loop where we want to satisfy human requirements, and in the process we are producing negative feedbacks which are destroying the resource itself. So this has to be recognized, and what we have seen to have followed is a very poor model of development and management, where the objective has been economic growth and social welfare. We have seen an increase. That red line has grown with time, but unfortunately we have reached an optimal point where further economic growth cannot happen because the resource itself is getting degraded. The ecosystem is getting degraded, water resources are getting degraded, both availability and quality, and they in turn will impose a constraint on economic growth. So this seems to be the poor model that we seem to have adopted, especially with regard to water resources. So the question is, what should be done? So there has been a new approach, new paradigm which has come, which is known as the sustainable development and management concept. This has been applied to many of the natural resources, and more so with regard to water. Ideally, what we should be adopting is this kind of a model where we achieve economic and social growth and social welfare, but we realize that there is a limit to it, and we reach that constant level and be happy with that. And in the process, we make sure that the natural resources and the ecosystem health does not get degraded. So this is probably the approach that we need to adopt if we want to ensure that the natural resources are going to be available for future generations, intact in its natural form. They should be available for future generations, which is what the concept of sustainability is all about. And the IWRM is a process that has now today been proposed, Integrated Water Resources Development and Management, which is also known as the Sustainable Water Resources Development and Management. This has been defined as a process which promotes the coordinated development and management of not only water, but the related land and related other natural resources such as forests and soil and so on, in order to maximize the resultant economic and social welfare in an equitable manner without compromising the sustainability of vital ecosystems. So this is a new approach where within the water resources development, we are integrating the concept of sustainability, and we are ensuring that whatever we do, we will not compromise the sustainability of vital ecosystems. And we need to achieve this by adopting many of the policies that have been proposed under this new approach. There are many policy guiding principles which have been proposed under this new concept. IWRM is a holistic approach which links social and economic development with protection of natural ecosystems, including land and water at the catchment scale. And water development and management should necessarily involve a participatory approach where the users, planners, and policymakers all come together to decide on how water development should take place. And especially in rural parts of India, women play a critical role as the water manager of the house. They are the ones who walk long distances, bring water home, protect it in a safe manner, and allocate it for various uses within the household. So the role of women is central in rural water resources management. And most importantly, water has an economic value in all its competing uses, and it should be recognized as an economic good. This is a very important change that has been proposed, which tries to overcome the myth that many people, even educated people, have that water is available for free and it is available in plenty so that we can use and misuse it the way we want. But we must recognize that it is an economic good, and we must use it in that concept. So there are three major goals for integrated water resources development or sustainable water resources development and management: economic efficiency, equity, and environmental sustainability. In whatever we do, whatever water resources projects we build, we must ensure economic efficiency. And at the same time, since water is a fundamental right for a human being, we cannot forget equity. Every citizen of the country must get his or her share of water, which is required for life and livelihood. And we must also ensure environmental sustainability. And essentially, what we should try to do is we must strike a balance between water for livelihood, which is absolutely essential, and water as a resource. So these are the two things that we must balance. Unfortunately, we have always looked at water for livelihood, and we have not looked at water as an economic resource. And therefore, we need to create these enabling pillars, the three pillars: management instruments, enabling environment, and the institutional framework for achieving this. So this is what is the new concept of integrated water resource development and management. And central to this is to recognize the fact that naturally occurring water performs several functions. We human beings always look at only one function that water can perform, which is the production function. Water is available. How can I use it to produce food or to make something in the industry? We forget the fact that water also has regulation functions. It regulates the entire ecosystem. It has carrier functions. It carries nutrients and sediments from one location to another location. It also carries information from one location to another location. And it performs various hydrological functions, biogeochemical functions, and ecological functions. Unfortunately, we don't recognize this. We always look at the production functions of water. Just to give you an example of how this issue has to be dealt with, let us assume that there is some groundwater available at a particular location, and it is available in certain quantity and quality today. There are two options that we can have. One is whether I should extract that groundwater and utilize it, or the other option is not to extract the groundwater. If I were to extract that groundwater for municipal, agricultural, or industrial use, then I have to encounter these negative feedback, which I spoke about earlier. The quality of that groundwater and the quantity of groundwater is going to be affected by tomorrow. So this is a thing that what development leads to. It is fine that we want that water for human use, but we must also remember that groundwater, just by being there, is also performing several in situ services. It has a buffer value, it has a waste assimilation value, it prevents land subsidence, it prevents saltwater intrusion, and it is home to several million organisms which live within the subsurface. So if we don't recognize these in situ services, we as human beings will only look at the extractive services. So the trade-off should be made. What is the benefit that I'm going to get if I extract water versus what is the benefit that I'm going to get if I leave it in its place? If I were to get more benefit extracting water and also taking care of the quality impacts, if that benefit is more than the benefit that I get by allowing water to remain where it is, then certainly I should extract water. But if I realize that the benefit that comes from groundwater just by being there in situ and performing all those functions, that has a higher value, that benefit is more, then I should not extract water. So this is the fundamental concept of the integrated water resources development and management, or the sustainable water resources development and management. This is how we can ensure sustainability of the resource, by recognizing that the water has to be looked at in its totality, not only from the human-centric viewpoint. So if you compare the policy of water resources development and management that we have been adopting all these years, all close to a century, Existing policy, human welfare and economic growth has always been the overriding factor. Whereas integrated water resource development management proposes that ecosystem health and sustainability of the resource must be the objective. And the spatial unit for water resources has always been the region, district or state, whereas we should be looking at the catchment of the watershed. Existing policy has always looked at water as a human asset, whereas we should be looking at it as an ecological asset. Environmental and societal concerns, whether it is environmental impacts or the rehabilitation of displaced people, we always look at it as a post-project problem that we will handle, whereas in reality, it should become an integral part of the design. And allocation of water between various sectors has always been based on the demands of each of those sectors. But IWRM, because we are going to look at water as a commodity with economic value, we must look at the incremental benefits and make allocation of water resources. If there are two sectors which are asking for the same water, I have to give it to the sector which gets higher incremental benefit. So that is the way we have to look at it. But however, I again reiterate, we cannot overlook the fact that equity is very important. The basic water needs of all human beings must be taken care of. So these are the policies that are proposed in comparison to what we have been practicing earlier. And since water is considered as an economic commodity, water trading in private water markets, which is already happening in large parts of Maharashtra, northern Karnataka, where farmers with water source, maybe groundwater, are selling it to their neighbors. So there are private water markets today which are happening. And today we also have the participation of citizens in water control and allocation. Pani Samitis are being formed, especially in Gujarat. We find many water cooperative societies which are being formed. And these societies are democratically elected societies and samitis. And they decide how water should be allocated and how water development should take place. So there is a smaller role for government agencies in water allocation in the future. And reduction in misuse of water, wastage of water must be through an optimal pricing policy. Unfortunately, in our country, we don't charge as per actuals when it comes to water supply. It is a highly subsidized commodity, but it is a very tricky political issue. If you change the water tariff, then the governments can fall. So, but someday in the future, I think we will have to come out with an optimal pricing policy for water. When we are able to do it for energy, why not do it for water also? We need new water laws and legal framework to ensure that water is not misused. And most importantly, I think even today in our country, we don't consider wastewater as a resource. In fact, if you see most Western countries, wastewater is included in the resource column, not in the liability column. Wastewater is always looked at as a resource, and we have to think in terms of wastewater recycling and reuse. Unfortunately, India has not achieved much success in doing that. And maybe in the future, we have to do that on a much larger scale, like many countries such as the European countries and especially Israel are doing. Every drop of wastewater is collected, recycled, and brought back into use. And unfortunately, the other thing that we have not done in our country is we have not focused on this very important topic of demand management of water. We have only looked at water supply management. So we have unfortunately ignored this. We have not paid much attention to water demand management. We have always focused on water supply management, where the traditional approach is, this is the requirement for water, where shall we get it from? New facilities, new structures, new dams, new reservoirs, new pipelines. We keep increasing the supply of water so that it meets our requirements. And if water is not available within our own basin, we are even prepared to go out and bring it from the neighboring basin. So there is no end to this, and water supply management has led to overuse of the resource, overcapitalization, huge pollution and non-sustainability of the resource. We have spent crores of rupees on creating new infrastructure to improve supplies. And there is little attention being paid to demand reduction, valuation of water, and economic efficiency. If we don't do that, then this water supply management policy cannot be a sustainable approach. So today there are many countries which are promoting this new concept of water demand management, which places more importance on water demand reduction rather than water supply through increased water supply through structural solutions. Demand management recommends the development of large capital-intensive structures only after all possible measures for reducing demands have been implemented. So, in fact, in the fundamental paradigm of water resources development and management is that in a particular region, if there is a situation of water scarcity, then the first step that we must look at is whether locally water resources are available, whether we can use that. The second step, if you are not able to satisfy the water requirement through the first step, through local augmentation, the second step is how can I reduce the demand for water? After that comes the last step, which is whether I should bring water from somewhere else. Unfortunately, in our country, we seem to be jumping from step number 1 to step number 3 without going through this very important step number 2, which is the reduction in demand. Water demand management and conservation represents the cheapest means to release fresh water for other uses. And especially when water is scarce, water demand management becomes absolutely essential. But unfortunately, this is not a very attractive option, especially for the political class, where we are not proposing building dams worth crores of rupees. These are all things that we can do in a very simple manner, and therefore they will not remain as attractive as the water supply management. Studies have shown that demand management has huge benefits. It can reduce water demands by as much as 30 to 50% with no deterioration in the level of service. You still get the same amount of water, it satisfies your needs, but we are only making sure that the wastage of water is reduced. And it significantly reduces the capital requirements for expansion of water supply and also lowers the operating costs. It reduces generation of pollutants because we are using less water, we produce less wastewater, and therefore the requirement for wastewater treatment systems also gets reduced. And the same money which would have been utilized for supply management can now be made available for other uses. It also promotes innovation and development and adoption of new technologies. And most importantly, it leads to economic efficiency and sustainability of the resource. So let us look at the scope of water demand management. There are essentially 3 approaches that can be adopted: technical approach, institutional approach, and economic approach. I will show you some examples for each one of them. So this demand management focuses on efficiency in water use, reuse of wastewater, and recycling and reuse of wastewater. And obviously, at the bottom of the pyramid is the efficient use of water, which is the cheapest. Reuse requires certain recovery of the water to be made before it can be reused. And recycling is probably the most expensive, higher investment cost, because you have to recover, treat that water and use it again. So the cost goes up as you go up that pyramid. And all these 3 are based on the core principles. There are 5 ways in which water demand management can be implemented. The first one is that we can enforce water conservation. That is, we can force people to reduce water consumption by bringing in new laws, new legislation, putting fines, penalties on people who are wasting water, or reducing the water requirement standards. So that is the enforcement of water conservation, which is being done in many countries. The second one is we adopt a more conciliatory approach where we encourage water saving. we don't force people, but we say, if you save water, we will provide you incentives. We will give you a rebate on your water bill, or we will give you some other benefit if you reduce your water utilization. And the third one is we invest on water saving devices, both in the water works as well as water metering is done, more rigorous water metering is done, and we use better appliances which use less water. And the fourth step is we can apply economic instruments. As I said, we can increase the water tariff. The pricing of water can be increased so that we are recovering the cost of supplying water. That is the fourth way in which it can be done. And finally, an educated user is a wise user. So educating water users and capacity building, giving examples, information campaigns, access to information and data. This is another way in which we can create a much better community of people who understand the need for water conservation. I always give this example. If a family goes to a shopping mall to buy a washing machine, they will only want to know how much electricity the washing machine consumes. Very rarely will people ask how much water the washing machine consumes. They are not bothered about it because they don't even realize that they are paying a very low water bill, whereas they're paying a very high electricity bill. So we need to educate water users to understand that water is not available for free and water is not available in plenty. And this becomes extremely important. So let's look at some of these in detail with examples. Enforcing water demand management. The steps, typical steps that can be adopted are banning of sprinkler irrigation for lawns, banning of lawn irrigation during dry periods or at noon time, strict standards for indoor water appliances and plumbing. We have very strict standards for electricity appliances and other switches, but for water we don't have such strict standards. Mandatory recycling or reuse in industry, zero discharge concept. No water should come out of, no wastewater should come out of the industry. Industry must utilize all the wastewater that they are generating, recycle and reuse. Penalizing people for using drinking water for irrigation, irrigating their gardens, or for washing their cars, or for filling swimming pools. For example, I've shown there Chandigarh city slaps a fine of rupees 2,000 on people who are wasting water. So this is happening in our own country. There are some municipal corporations which are taking this very seriously. And also definition of an upper limit per person. And in case the person exceeds that limit, then they may have to pay a fine. So these are the steps that we need to adopt if we want to ensure that water demand management happens through enforcement. As I said, we can also encourage people to reduce water consumption, public engagement for the implementation of policies and for wise water use, providing incentives for water saving practices. For example, if you show that you have installed water saving devices in your home, you will be given a tax benefit or a rebate in your water bill. For example, today if you install a solar panel in your home, you get a corresponding rebate in your electricity bill. Same way, why don't we do this for water bills also? Mapping of water use, water audits in public buildings and industries. We don't even know how much water we are using in many of our establishments. And we need to use experts to design and implement water conservation plans. And we need to provide a list of products and water saving appliances so that people can buy these and implement them. Again, I've shown one example from Sydney, Australia, where they tried two approaches. One was every drop counts business, where free of charge assistance for performing water audit and developing a water management plan was proposed for large scale water consumers. The government said, we will give you the water audit and water management plan. We will do it for free. You just have to implement it. Or the water saver grant plan, were funding half the cost of water saving projects for small and medium scale businesses, or free replacement of spray valves for small and medium scale businesses. We may think that these are all small things, but if you look at the kind of benefits that it offers, for example, 369 business houses participated in this water saving in business campaign, and more than 11,000 million liters of water was saved per year through this simple approach. So it is possible to do this in our country. We still do not have any standards with regard to the toilet flushes that we use. Very rarely you will find the dual flush systems in place. We still have in many old buildings the large flush toilets which consume more than 10 liters of water per day per flush. So these are things which are very small, but if 1.4 billion people do it, then you can imagine the amount of water that is going to be saved. Investing in infrastructure, installing drip irrigation systems, installing low flow variable flush, as I said, installing water saving faucets of the type that I have shown there. You can see that the water comes out of this tap in a spray. It gives you the same effect on your hands as a normal tap would do, but it saves 90% of the water. So we rarely see these kinds of faucets being installed in homes and in public areas. Implement grey water reuse. Water saving technology should be included in the annual budget, and water conservation plans must become an important activity of water agencies. So this needs to be done. And as I said, water tariff can give rise to significant decrease in water consumption, providing incentives towards more environmentally friendly behavior of water users. Water pricing, full recovery of full cost of water should be the main goal. As you can see, Singapore is a leading example there. The Prime Minister of Singapore said, if you give water for free, no one will bother to turn off the tap. Pricing is a very important part of managing the demand for water. And in Singapore, we price water at the cost of producing the next alternative drop. So citizens are made to pay the full cost of water. Whereas, as I said, in our country, even today, we subsidize water. Proper water metering and distribution of cost. But again, I reiterate, we cannot make a compromise on the equity aspect. Access to water is a non-negotiable right, and water pricing should not exclude people from being supplied with the water that is needed for their basic needs, which is the drinking water need and the sanitation need. So that has to be kept in mind. Lastly, as I said, this may again sound very trivial, but even in a very educated community, I live on the campus at NITK Suratkal. We have done several surveys on water amongst our students. We get some of the brightest students of the country in our campus, but they hardly have any idea about where we get our water from, what happens to our sewage water. Many of our students, when we did the survey, we found that they think water is free of cost. They don't know that water is charged. And surprisingly, many of our students think that we release our sewage into the sea. They don't even know that we have to treat sewage. So an informed user is a better user. Information campaigns on water saving options at home, irrigation and industry can contribute to more active involvement of public in water saving efforts. There are some state governments which are doing very well in this. Maharashtra is a leader in training of farmers, especially on water conservation. Access to information, inclusion and participation are main elements of successful community development. You make the public part of the project, then they have a sense of ownership and they look after the water resources project in a much better way. Water audit skills and training needs of the people are needed. And the key factor of any conservation plan is to have informed users and managers. So this is with regard to the demand management. And before I end this talk, whenever I talk about water, I always talk about this, that there is a looming water crisis in India, which calls for better water resources management policies. Sustainable development of natural resources is absolutely essential for further economic growth and social welfare. Concept of integrated sustainable water resources management promotes equitable utilization of fresh water under existing constraints. Water is a basic human right for livelihood, but it must be treated as an economic commodity when it comes to other uses such as agricultural use or industrial use. And India needs to focus more on water demand management, which seems to be the only solution for a sustainable future. And after saying all this, I always also say, what can I do as a citizen, as a human being, for this problem of water resources? So, as ordinary citizens, we can contribute to solving the water problem by saving water. And I always keep telling my students, if each one of us uses 1 liter of water less per day, and 1.4 billion people do that, you can imagine 1.4 billion liters of water per day is going to be saved, and it's going to be available for other users. So it may sound like a trivial thing, but I think as citizens, we need to make our own contribution to conservation of natural resources, to climate change. We always think that somebody else is creating the problem, forgetting the fact that each one of us is making a huge contribution to these problems through our combined contribution. And especially as engineers, it is our duty and responsibility to create awareness about water issues amongst the general public. So I never refuse an opportunity to talk about water. I always go out there and talk about all these issues so that people become aware of these critical issues. And I hope that we all adopt and promote the policy of wise water use. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. If you have any suggestions or comments, you may kindly email me at my email address. So we can have an interactive session. If there are any questions, any comments, I'll be happy to interact.
Yes, sir. The floor is open for the participants to clarify your doubts. Just a moment, sir. It is not getting unmuted.
I think some people have raised their hands.
Yes, sir. I'm just trying to unmute it. Our computer section people are working on that. Just a moment, sir. Give me 1 minute.
Hiramat, just 2 minutes. I'll come back. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes. All muted ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ತೆಗೆದಿಲ್ಲ.
Participant
yeah. Sir will be there in 1 minute. If you have certain doubts, please note it down. Once he comes, you can just have a discussion with him.
Yes, sir.
Be patient for one minute.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yes, sir. The participants who have any doubts, kindly clarify. Most of them have appreciated your presentation, sir. There are some questions which they have sent in the chat box. Let me first finish those questions and then the others can ask. There is a doubt. They say that as we knew that the planning of interlinking of rivers is there from long ago, what are the practical issues or problems associated with this? What are the reasons for the delay in implementation?
It's a good question. Basically, the problem is that there's a question of the financial constraint. As you can see, the figure that I projected there, huge investments are needed for interlinking of these rivers, because you have to physically create a new channel to connect to rivers, and you may have to build a dam and then divert that water through either an open channel or through a pipe system. So there's a huge financial commitment which is there. In addition to that, in our country, we are also possessive about water. First, we have to identify a donor basin and the receiving basin. And we have to prove that there is excess water in the donor basin. Otherwise, people in that donor basin are going to protest and say, why are you taking away our water? We need it. So there's also a political issue involved with that. And this happened in our own district of Dakshin Kannada, where I don't know how many of you are aware that the Netravati river has been diverted through a project which is known as the Yetinohale project. And they have built a dam at a very high altitude in the Western Ghats. And from there, they are pumping water over the Western Ghats and then allowing it to flow by gravity to many parts of Karnataka, Tumkur, Kolar, and all those dry areas. The water is being delivered through an open channel system. When this project was planned, entire Dakshin Kannada district enforced a bandh, saying that we will not allow our Netravati river water to be taken away. It's a major political issue. But fortunately or unfortunately, they were able to implement that plan. So many times there's a question of politics also. And very rarely will people agree easily for water from their basin to be diverted away to another basin. And more than that, I think we really don't understand the long-term environmental impacts of these kinds of large-scale water transfers. I always give the example of Canada, for example, was one of the first countries in the world to literally change the direction of a river and divert water from one river to another river. And Canada is also the first country to ban large-scale water transfers through an act of parliament, because they realized that it was a disaster diverting water on such a large scale. It gives rise to several environmental issues, degradation of forests. In addition to that, you bring in invasive species. When you divert water from one river to another river, the ecosystem itself is changing, because the organisms that grow in one particular type of riverine system may not exist in another riverine system. So, for example, extreme example, suddenly in your river, you never saw crocodiles. But now, because of the diversion, you may see crocodiles coming out of your own river. Those kinds of ecological changes, major changes can take place. The problem with all this is, as I said, we always look at water as performing only one function, which is the production function. We are only concerned with that. We are not concerned with all the other functions that water is performing. The hydrological functions, the hydro, geo, biophysical functions, sediment transport. I get very angry when people tell me that the west flowing rivers, the water is getting wasted. It flows into the Arabian Sea. And I tell them, please don't say that. You are saying it is being wasted from a human perspective. But from the viewpoint of sediment transport, coastal erosion, fish which lives in the Arabian Sea, that freshwater inflow is extremely important. Every year that amount of fresh water has to go into the ocean. And one of my friend who is a scientist in National Institute of Oceanography, Goa, did a simulation study where he showed that if you shut off the water that comes into the Bay of Bengal from the Brahmaputra and the Ganga by even 10%, it is going to change the climatic conditions of the entire Bay of Bengal region. So we have applications of the climate also with such large scale diversions. So we should be a little cautious before we do this. And as I said, if we faithfully follow the 3 steps, local resources, utilize it, and then you start reducing your demands. Even after reducing your demands, you still have a water shortage. Then you think of bringing water from the neighboring basins. Unfortunately, we are jumping from 1 to 3 without bothering about 2. Whereas in the United States, they will not permit a water diversion to happen from a water-rich state to a dry state like Nevada or California until Nevada and California prove that they have implemented all strategies of water conservation and water demand reduction. They have to give solid proof. And even after doing all that, there is still a water scarcity. Only then they permit water to be diverted from one river to another river. So we need to keep in mind all these issues when it comes to interbasin water transfers on a large scale. And China is another example. One of the biggest water diversion schemes was planned by China, where literally they are transferring water from southern China to northern China through an aqueduct. There are wonderful videos on National Geographic on how they are building this massive above ground aqueduct, river literally, which is transporting water from southern China to northern China. But unfortunately, it has run into serious hurdles, both environmental hurdles as well as financial hurdles. And right now, they have stopped the work on that project. So these are some of the issues when it comes to water transfers. I hope that answers your question.
This was the question asked by Dr. Madhusudan from ADITYA College of Engineering and Technology, Bangalore.
Okay. I hope he is satisfied with it.
Yes, sir. One more from Vinay Kumar. Yes. He says, why the government can initiate a few crore principles strictly as WDM, which you have mentioned, and moving towards water demand management.
No, especially people from the state of Karnataka, we should feel very proud because Karnataka is one of the first states in the whole country which has modified its water policy document as recently as in 2022. And the most recent water policy of Karnataka state is completely based upon this new concept of integrated water resources development and management, or the sustainable water resources development and management, which I spoke about now. This is happening slowly, but surely states are realizing that we need to change our policies with regard to water resources development. So maybe Karnataka is going to be the leader in showing this to the rest of the country on how these new principles can actually be implemented. So please check out the new Karnataka State Water Policy 2022. You'll find that it follows faithfully this new concept.
Yes. Any other doubts that you have? You can please unmute and ask.
Sir, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm audible. I'm
Yeah.
Vinay, sir. I'm from Alvas Institute of Engineering and Technology, Mudbidre.
Yeah.
Sir, I had a doubt. Let's say we have the concept of environmental flow or the natural flow regime that is getting expanded even in the international as well in the national domains. And specifically, the NGT says that we have to maintain about 15 to 20% of the natural flows in their original conditions. What do you think upon this one, sir? Are they implementable? That's the first question. And I had one more doubt, like as you already answered that one, wherein you said about the interbasin transfers, wherein the species diversity varies, and that I completely agree with you. But when we talk about this, the policy at the policy level regarding the environmental flow, the NGT says that we have to implement. But are we really doing that one? If not, where we are failing?
No, let me tell you, out of first-hand knowledge,
Huh.
because I served as for 3 years, I was a member on the expert appraisal committee for river valley and hydropower projects under this is a committee under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. So this committee, there are several such committees for different domains, and I was in the committee for, as I said, river valley projects and hydropower projects. And all proposals in the country above a certain magnitude in terms of coverage and also in terms of financial outlay have to pass through this committee, and they get their environmental clearance from this committee. So I served for 3 years on that committee, and we used to meet online twice a month, and in every meeting we used to get at least 5 to 6 new proposals. Both irrigation projects, but mostly hydropower projects, especially in the Northeast and Himachal Pradesh. And one of the guidelines that we were strictly following is with regard to the e-flows. Strictly as per the guidelines, we were ensuring that we will not give environmental clearance and we will not approve the project unless they satisfy the guidelines for the e-flows. Absolutely essential. We had experts in our committee from fisheries. We had experts from the aqua biology group. They used to have complete information about what is the aquatic life in that particular river. We had people from the wildlife department who knew about all the wildlife in that region, where the crossings are. We would not allow the project to go through unless they satisfied the guidelines with regard to e-flows, biotic life, wildlife, and of course the other water quality, air pollution, the other criteria also. So strictly the Government of India is implementing these guidelines, at least on paper. I have to say that, because once the project is approved, they get environment clearance and they implement the project and the project is commissioned, we don't know what they are doing. Then it becomes the responsibility of the local state pollution control board to make sure whether the e-flows are being maintained or not.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the inputs. Sir, any other informations you can pass on regarding the environmental flow? Specifically, why? Because the northern part of country you have the perennial rivers, but in the southern part of the country we don't have that much of perenniality. Hardly few rivers are perennial.
No. Even in northern rivers, even in the northeast and in Himachal, even in the perennial rivers, once you build a dam, you are obstructing the flow.
Yeah, I understand, sir. Are there different norms for the northern part of country and southern part of country?
No, not really. It is all defined in terms of the peak monsoon flows. Percentage of the peak monsoon flows have to be kept aside as environmental flows.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And on a related topic, I would like to tell you that I don't know how many of you are aware about this major plan that India is making with regard to inland navigation. Are you aware of it?
No, sir. No, sir.
India is making a big plan for inland navigation system using our river systems. Like in Kerala, where it is done, people use the rivers there for traveling. West Bengal, it is there. So they are planning it for the entire country so that they can take the load off the highway and railway systems and allow some movement to happen in the rivers of India. And once that is implemented, then obviously the minimum flow has to be in the river. Otherwise, the boats and the ships cannot move. Minimum draft will have to be there.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So any more? There is some
Yes, sir.
Mahantesh Patil who has raised question.
Sir, good evening, sir. Myself, Mahantesh Patel, sir. I am from SLN Saram Vishweshwara College of Engineering, Raichur. Okay, sir. I had a small doubt, sir. 2 or 3 months back, I met one of the engineers in Almaty Dam, sir. I think you are aware of that, sir. Where it comes near Bijapur. There we have an uplift irrigation system. We have, sir. Okay, and even there is a hydro project work is also going on there, sir. But what I got the information from some of the engineers from there that whatever the electricity that they're producing in that Almaty, it is not that is not even sufficient for uplift irrigation projects. Then what is the use of making such uplift irrigation projects, sir? As of already, again, you said one more thing like uplifting the water flow itself. As you were telling me, sir.
Yeah, no, I'm not very sure about the hydropower component in the Almaty Dam.
Okay.
But if I remember correctly, it is basically a dam for irrigation, where you have a dam powerhouse which is built.
Yes.
It is not an exclusive hydropower project.
No, sir. No.
It is a dam powerhouse.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Dam powerhouse, usually the installed capacity will be very low, because they are using only the head of water which is available in the reservoir. They are not creating any other head.
No, sir.
So the power output from dam hydro power projects will be quite low, and it will be critically dependent upon the inflows into the reservoir. And as you say, if they are lifting water from the upstream area, then probably the water levels are low during the non-monsoon season, and they may not be able to produce much power.
No, sir. My one more doubt is that in the dam itself, we require large amount of electricity for uplifting the water.
No, that's what I'm saying. In the dam only means they have a dam powerhouse.
Yeah. But what about the flow itself, sir? Like if you were telling that you want to uplifting the flow of the water itself, sir. You were telling in the presentation time you were telling us, sir.
Uplifting means?
Diverting the flow itself, sir. Flow of water.
That has not happened there. They are not diverting water. They are only,
no, sir. Not.
They are adopting lift irrigation from the
irrigation.
Lift irrigation in the reservoir. That's all.
Yes. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right.
We can take the last one if anyone is having a specific, more important question. We can take the last one now.
Hello, sir. Sir, namaste.
Hello, please.
Sir, namaste.
Namaste.
My question is, initially you told this diesel vehicle and this electro EV vehicle is creating a lot of problems in future. But why government is allowing those vehicles, sir? Can't we stop now itself in order to protect our future?
No, what is the other option? People have to move about.
Maybe
they are running out of fossil. Fossil
true.
fuel will get over.
Maybe petrol vehicle or some other options. Anything can government can.
Please tell me what other energy source is there for driving an automobile? Electricity only.
Yeah, only electricity. Correct.
So now there are people who are trying to see whether the battery will get charged when the vehicle is running.
Yeah, true.
Okay. So that it becomes more, environmentally sustainable. You don't have to stop everywhere and get it charged.
Okay.
There are other sources of energy which are being spoken about, hydrogen, but they're all still in their initial stages of development.
Okay.
They've not gone to the stage of using it at large scales.
Okay.
There are plans, of course. I think Indian Railways has major plans for use of hydrogen
Okay.
in the future,
Okay.
but they are still not very cost effective.
Okay, sir.
See, EV also, it's only in recent years that EV and solar, the cost has come down.
Okay.
10 years ago, they were very expensive. But
Okay.
now technology, the solar panel technology has improved, the cell technology has improved. So costs are coming down.
Okay.
But we need some mode of transport, no?
Yes. But even though we are know that this is going to cause a bigger problem in the future, but still we are using that only. And that's my
We are stuck in it.
Yes,
This is
sir.
the model of development,
Yes.
human
Yes.
development. We
Yes, sir.
can't go back and live in caves, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, true. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll try to end this session. So we are really honored, sir, by your gracious presence here and thought-provoking session. For many of us, as some of them are from other departments also, and they are really appreciating in the chat box. If you have a glance.
No, in fact, that was the reason, Hiremat, I didn't bring in much technical stuff here because I knew that the audience would be diverse.
True, sir.
So it had to be kept non-technical as much as possible.
Yes, sir. So we are really thankful for your precious time in your busy schedule, and we hope that all the participants will meet you again in coming days in one or the other session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Wish your program all the very best.
Yes, sir.
And I sincerely hope the participants get some benefit out of this very useful FDP.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Namaste.
Yes. So we have the next session by Dr. Prabhanjan. He is already there with us now.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Just a moment, sir. Yes. Good evening, Prabhanjan Alankar, sir. To have you in our ATAL online FDP on sustainable management of natural resource and waste. Before his session, let me introduce Mr. Prabhanjan Alankar, sir. He is currently the Senior Group Engineer at AtkinsRealis, Bengaluru. Am I audible, sir? Yeah. So Mr. Prabhanjan has more than 14 years of experience in the water resource domain, specializing in flood modeling, hydrology, and GIS applications. He has successfully delivered projects for government and private clients across the UK, Australia, India, and Sri Lanka, covering flood risk assessment, large infrastructure projects, climate resilience studies, and wastewater management. His area of expertise include integrated flood modeling, hydrological modeling and direct rainfall modeling, flood economics, programming and automation related to water resource management. He is well versed with the skills of 2Flow software, like RAS software, Flood Modeler Pro, SWAT, URBS, QGIS, ArcGIS, and Python. Before working in AtkinsRealis, Bangalore, he was working in Jacobs, Bangalore as a lead engineer, Atkins, Bangalore as associate group engineer, ArcGIS, Bangalore as an engineer, and DHI Water and Environment, Pune as a water resource engineer. He has done his undergraduate in civil engineering from National Institute of Engineering, Mysuru, and MTech in water resource engineering from IIT Bombay. The notable projects that he has carried out are flood studies for Brisbane City Council, Australia, and UK Environmental Agency, HATPRO expansion project, which involves hydraulic modeling of river diversions, climate resilience improvement projects under Ministry of Irrigation, Sri Lanka, real-time stream flow forecasting system, Water Resource Department, Maharashtra, decision support system for integrated water resource management for CWC and state government agencies of India. So with this brief introduction, I wholeheartedly welcome Mr. Prabhanjan to this online FDP, and I'll hand over the floor to Mr. Prabhanjan to take up the session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'll try to share my slides. I do not have a good collection of books similar to Professor Lakshman Nandagiri, sir, but trying to use a background. Sorry, is my screen visible?
No, sir. Now it is getting hosted. Yeah, now it is visible, sir.
Okay, I'll try to put into the slideshow mode.
Right, sir. It is visible now.
Okay. Can we start now, sir?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay. Thank you, and good evening to everyone on the call. Today, I'll be speaking a bit about the floods and how it connects with our sustainable development goals. So in general, because my experience has been mainly in the floods, and all of us can connect because it is a topic which is of a global concern, and I'll try to keep it not very technical, but there are some elements which will be appealing even for the people from the water resources also. So the outline of this presentation is going to be something like this. Starting with what challenges we are facing today, and in terms of let's say development or other aspects that the globe is facing, global, and also what are the sustainable development goals and how flooding impacts them, and how do we manage floods, and what does it mean by a flood, or how it interfaces with our lives. And major part of the presentation, I would like to highlight on the role of hydraulic modeling, on how it can help undertake a lot of scenario modeling, etc. So I'll be showing some case studies here based on my experience. Just to give you a disclaimer that so I have worked in the past for the Indian government projects, but recent my experience has been mainly on the projects within the UK. So kindly bear with me for, because I might not have the recent guidelines or anything from India, but I will try to answer any specific queries. And finally, I would like to end with what we can do for the future. Okay, so just just to also mention that I might go on mute sometime because not feeling 100% today because of some cold here, but I'll try to I hope you can bear with that.
Yeah, sorry, sir, I forgot to mention. Dear participants, I'm really sorry to mention that Mr. Prabhanjan is not well actually. He is having cold and fever. In spite of his health issues, he is presenting and he might take a few breaks or might take mute for some time. Please bear with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I hope I think we can manage through this. Okay, to begin with, so we are at crossroads. So I mean, what we are having today, the scenario outside. So you can see that on one hand, there are concerns about the environment. So we want to protect the environment. There are a lot of challenges on the existing the natural resources. There is a depletion. So a lot of things going on, and there are so many NGOs, individuals striving to protect the environment. Uh, but also on the other hand, we see a rapid urbanization. I mean, it's been happening since decades. So we cannot say that okay, we do not want any development. We need good roads. We need good towns, cities, etc. For us to, I mean, have a good life, and so that we can have um, better connectivity for any access to good education, healthcare, everything. So it's all interlinked and interconnected. So it's like we are struggling to find a balance, really. On one hand, it demands a lot of consumption of the natural resources, and on the other hand, we are at a rapid pace in terms of the development. So where does this lead to? So with the pace that we are going, I think we also in the light of these climate change impacts, etc. So it all becomes very challenging. So we are trying to. There are many people, organizations, and individuals who are trying to find a balance actually on between these two, because development is inevitable. Also, we need to protect the environment. So both should go hand in hand. So this is kind of a summary which you would typically hear in most of the conversations which revolve around any sustainable development. So sustainable development, it mainly looks at the future, but also not compromising about anything that we want today. So with this context, and also you might have seen these sustainable development goals. So each and every country will strive towards achieving these sustainable development goals. Each of them, they have set up their own action plans on how they want to achieve this. I mean, every country might have different level of details into every sustainable development goals. Some of them could be country specific, but in general, these are the things which it has been set up by the UN. And if we look at um, individual sustainable development goals, um, we might be very specific, but there are these challenges which I mentioned earlier. For example, natural disasters, like it could be a heat wave, it could be a drought, or it could be a flood. So it all impacts multiple um, sustainable development goals. That means what I want to say is, let's say if we take the example of flood, it can directly or indirectly have an impact on at least half of the sustainable development goals. That means it acts as a hindrance to our efforts that we want to put forward. So just imagine a scenario where a flood hits and it impacts so many buildings or houses. So people will be losing their property, and hence they will be uh, falling behind. So people will not be able to have a strong economic prosperity. That means this first goal, which is no poverty, people will still be in poverty, or if the agricultural lands are flooded frequently, so we will have challenges on how do we tackle the challenge, how do you tackle the this problems on the zero hunger SDG, and access to good health and well-being. So if floods are occurring very frequently, so you might know that it will have an impact on the diseases that it might arise post flood event. And clean water and sanitation, of course, is a very important thing. So if we have a proper pipe network of, let's say, it could be water supply network or it could be a sewerage system, and a flood damages that, it takes years to build. And a decent work and economic growth is hampered if we have floods. And sustainable cities and communities. So this is directly related to the floods. So how do we build a sustainable city that can be resistant to any future flooding issue that it might cause? So we will be talking mostly about this SDG 11 and climate action, the number 13. Climate action is very much closely linked to the floods and droughts or things like that. We are seeing increased evidences about how climate change is impacting the hydrological cycle and hence floods. So it's quite important that we consider that in every development plan that we go for. And terrestrial life. So either it could be below the water or on the land. So both are impacted if there are floods. So essentially, what I'm trying to set the context is at least half of our SDGs are directly or indirectly impacted by a disaster such as floods, and it's not country specific. So this is a global phenomena, and hence, so what are we going to do, and how do we go ahead with a sustainable future is the challenge that we have. So in terms of how we plan for the future, let's say if I am speaking specifically with relate to the flood, so how are you going to do flood management? There can be two ways, broadly speaking. So one is the first one is a hard engineering measures or structural interventions. It could be building a flood embankment or a flood relief canal or a dam or dredging. So these are all involving something physically on the ground, so which will hold the water. And so this is nothing but a hard engineering structural measure. So this has been the case since many years, since we started looking at flood embankments or anything. The Netherlands is a good example how they have built dikes around the country. So on the other hand, in the recent years, we also have been looking at some non-structural measures. So these are all called as soft engineering because it doesn't involve a lot of construction. For example, it could be developing an early warning system. So if we are able to give a better warning system, at least we will be able to save lives and also some important property. So how do we develop that kind of systems? And if we have a proper land use planning, so whenever we are planning to do a new township, what are the areas that we should avoid so that even if we build, so it is flood proof. So that's the actual land use planning that I'm talking about. And there is something called as flood insurance. So this has been active for agricultural industry within India, but elsewhere across the globe we have flood insurance even for buildings and properties, something like that. So that means someone is taking care of a damage that might occur due to flood incident, so that we are not, I mean, people are not impacted too much, and they are able to have some kind of resilience. So that's the logic behind flood insurance. And in the recent years, we have been hearing a lot about natural flood management. So this is typically, I mean, we have been hearing mostly within countries like UK or US. Although I'll talk more about this at the later end. Some of the magnitude of the floods could be very different. The volumes that we look within India, the river systems, it is so huge as compared to any other. Let's say if I'm talking about the river network within the UK. So the rivers are very small, and we do not have a lot of discharge there. So hence, depending on the geography, depending on the requirement, so all these flood management options could be varying. So if it works in some location, it need not work in some other location. But if you look from a very high level, so the hard engineering measures, it is kind of time tested, but it requires a lot of investment in terms of the money and other things. Whereas these soft engineering measures, it might not have very great benefit as compared to the hard engineering measures, but we might need to do some kind of cost benefit analysis to come up with what works best. So I will briefly mention about this slightly later. So moving on, floods are, so how do we understand floods? So if we want to manage them, first we need to understand. So there are a lot of factors, and it could be very complicated. It's not always straightforward. So the hydrology of the catchment could be very tricky. You need to identify what is the source of flooding, whether it is due to a river or just during the rainy season we have the flooding, or in some geographies we have the groundwater oozing out and then causing flooding. So there can be multiple sources of the flooding. So apart from these, there are some key drivers. What I mean is, if land cover is changing, for example, from an agricultural land to a urban development, so we have the loss of pervious land, and hence it results in a lot of runoff. So which will of course lead to a greater volume of the flood. And any urban infrastructure, so we typically construct a highway which might be an embankment. So it might obstruct the free flow of water. We might construct buildings which will again obstruct the flow of water. So it will push the water somewhere else. So if you are putting, if you are obstructing the flow path, so hence any development will have some or the other impact, which we need to keep in mind. And hydraulics is quite important, because hydraulics is the science of how the water moves through with respect to the time, and we need to see how the flow attenuation happens. That means in a catchment where there was no development, for example, so how was the flow moving through? Where was it getting stored? And after we develop that catchment, develop in the sense after we construct something, so how the storage and movement of water is getting impacted, and whether we have got any hydraulic structures. So hydraulic structures could be culverts or bridges or canals or so all these things. So which will all impact. And pipe network. So in the urban areas, this is quite important because we often hear that because the drainage system is not proper, we have these floods, etc., etc. So during this monsoon season, it is quite common that we hear issues about the drainage network. So this is more pronounced in the urban areas. So where the lack of a good sewerage system will result in choking of the water and hence results in flooding. And there might be so another important thing is to look at what are the receptors at risk. So imagine a case where there is huge volume of water, but nothing is impacted. That means no human beings or no buildings are impacted. Then do we really worry about that? Probably not. So even if some trees are washed away, we human beings we are focus so much on only our lives and properties, and we do not really classify that as a flood. So all these things that you are talking is mostly from the point of view of what we think is important for us, which I mean, you can call it as we being selfish, but we have created a lot of damage, and hence we are probably the most, or we are the most uh, reason, a factor for these disasters. And land use policy, if the government allows for construction on the floodplain, so definitely those buildings are going to get impacted, if not today, tomorrow. So we are seeing an increased number of instances where buildings are being impacted, basements are flooded, etc., etc. And people say that government is not taking any action, and government is blaming on something someone else. So it's like a problem of circularity. So where we are not able to narrow it down to whom to hold responsible for all this. But it's like a problem where we are facing today, but we are really stuck at some point there. So we will see how some other geographies are able to handle that, because that might throw some light on what can help us. So understanding these floods, as I mentioned, it's a complicated science, and so we have these hydraulic models. So I'm narrowing it down to hydraulic models, but apart from that, we also have hydrological models, where hydrological models mainly quantify the flow. And these hydraulic models route through the river systems. So hydrology itself is very much complicated, as I mentioned earlier. But for the next few slides, I will be talking briefly about what are these hydraulic models and how they can help in this broader flood mitigation. So hydraulic models are nothing but it can be a simplified representation. So in reality, we have some phenomena happening. So we are trying to mimic that phenomena either within a computer or using a small scale model. So we have laboratories where physical models are being built. It is still there, although the number of those physical models are being they are very less because of the easiness of mathematical models. So mathematical models means we are trying to represent the phenomena using the physics-based equations. And what are we trying to represent? So in hydraulic models, we can represent the systems like rivers or a floodplain. or a tidal system, or it could be even a pipe network. So both natural or man-made systems. So they can be kind of simplified. Uh, while simplifying, there will be a lot of assumptions and approximations which we'll need to take care. But these are quite useful. There have been, since many decades, there have been many research going on how we can improve the solution scheme. For example, to it could be a Saint Venant equation or a shallow water equation, which are all the uh, background behind these softwares that we use today. But essentially, um, so in reality, there is some phenomenon happening, and we are trying to simplify that using some finite difference equations, those kind of simplified representations. And the softwares are very good at solving this for a complex system, and hence we use them for our purpose. So they are used to analyze and predict the fluid flow behavior. So we can predict. So this prediction is quite an important thing because that will help us to do a lot of experiments with what we want to. And depending on the level of detail, so these hydraulic models can be 1D, 2D, or 3D. So 3D, it could be the computational fluid dynamics, and 1D, 2D, there are separate hydraulic models for that. And so in the recent years, there have been a good advancement in terms of the hardware that are used to simulate these hydraulic models, specifically these GPUs. Not so we have been hearing. I mean, we have used CPUs, but these GPUs were typically used for gaming purpose. And but so any of these simulations can also be undertaken on the GPU machines, graphical processing units, which will speeden up the simulations, and hence we can do a large number of simulations within a shorter time. So that's how advancements in the field of computer hardware is directly helping us to do a lot of simulations, particularly in the field of let's say climate science. It is helping a lot, and advancements in the graphics is also helping us to visualize a lot of these things. For example, outputs from these hydraulic models, and it helps in looking from a high level perspective. So what I mean is, so in one of the project where I was working, uh, so we consulted with the local engineers, etc., on what is the source of the flooding for a particular area. So they were not able to pinpoint from where the flood was coming because it's a complex system. But using a visualization, so when we presented the results on a big screen on and animated how the water moves through for a period of time, so it helped in identifying the flood route, and hence we were able to um narrow down to a particular problem. So all these things are a great asset for us to prepare for the future. And just a brief about these hydraulic models. Um, they are nothing but simplified representations, as I mentioned. So we can break down the entire floodplain into a number of grids, and so at each cell it might be it will be doing a mathematical computation on. So just imagine you're putting a rainfall depth on top of this cell. So it will compute how much is the loss depending on what is the land use at that location, and it will identify what is the runoff depth, and it will push that runoff depth to a neighboring cell depending on um, which cell is lower. It will look at the neighboring cells and then it will move the water to that cell. So this is from a very high level how a hydraulic model will work. Although it's not as simple as I mentioned. But yeah, so we will mainly see how it can help in the sustainable development. So sustainable development is a very big term. Uh, so that means we are we plan to develop something. Let's say construct a new highway from one city to the other city. It might involve a lot of cutting or filling. It might cut through many river systems. So how do we ensure that that's a sustainable development? And how can a hydraulic model help in that? So first one is it helps in understanding the existing flood risk. So this is quite important because at many locations we do not know what exactly is the current flood risk. So whether the area where we are interested, is it flooded once in 10 years, or is it flooded once in 100 years, or every 2 years? So what is the frequency of flooding, and what is the magnitude of flooding? So these two, frequency and magnitude of flooding at any given location. So this kind of information is not present for many areas. So this is a major bottleneck if we want to make our development resilient to any future flood risk. So hence, establishing the existing flood risk, which we call it as a baseline. Okay, so that is going to be very important. So if we do not have information about what's happening today, so we cannot plan for the future. So hydraulic models, they will help us in understanding the flood risk, whatever that is they're presented. Because if you develop a hydraulic model and then add or define the boundary conditions, for example, a rainfall or a tidal level, so that will tell us where all it will flood, and hence we can establish a baseline flood risk. So next thing is uh, it enables us to look into the future. So as I mentioned earlier, so one of the powerful feature of hydraulic modeling is so we can simulate uh, a wide variety of scenarios. And the future scenarios could be anything. For example, it could be a climate change scenario. So we all hear that, okay, the temperature is going to increase by this much, tidal levels are going to increase by this much. So what if we bring that information into our hydraulic model? So how our developments are going to cope up with that? So we will all be able to clearly see. So whether the development that we are planning, whether it is future proof or have we under designed or over designed, so we can take these kind of decisions. And other thing is to look into the future means we can also include any mitigation options that we are thinking. It could be, let's say, if you want to protect a city from flooding, and if we plan to construct a flood embankment or a canal, which one is better? So we will have some case study based on this. I think it will help in understanding much better. And so all these hydraulic models, it helps in informing the design of any sustainable infrastructure schemes. So it could be a new water supply network, or it could be a highway, or it could be the a flood embankment itself. So how is that going to be future proof? So it will all be dependent on how we are going to consider the future flows that it might arise due to maybe an increased peak due to climate change, or it could be something else. So I see these are some three main very powerful features or the aspects in which the hydraulic models will help. So we'll go through some case studies. So I had an opportunity to work on developing some baseline flood risk for some basins within Sri Lanka. So on the right side, you can see there are the catchments that, sorry for that. There are some catchments or the basins for which we had to undertake some or establish the baseline first. So because they wanted to prepare for the future, for which this existing flood risk was missing. Although this project included the drought aspects, but I mainly worked on the flood risk side of things. The project was called as Climate Resilience Improvement Project, and I have put a link to the website, so you can go through that. It has a lot of details, but essentially, so within this project, through by using the hydraulic models, which were run on some of the good computers, so we were able to establish the baseline flood risk for the most of the parts of the country of I mean Sri Lanka. So this helps in government to prepare for the future, because once they know that, so currently this is the risk that they are having. Because without any knowledge, let's say once flood hits, there will be multiple government agencies which will be involved, collect data to identify what's happening, how much of damage it has caused, rather than doing that every now and then. So it's better to establish what is a flood risk. For example, if a 1 in 100 year flood hits, how many buildings are getting impacted? 1 in 10 year flood hits, how many buildings are getting impacted? So this will help in understanding what is the current level of risk. And we were able to clearly identify that there were many properties at the risk of flooding. For example, in this slide, you can see we produced a number of maps. The one that is shown is for a 1 in 10 year flood event, the maximum depth at a particular basin. And so this kind of mapping was also not available because it was all in bits and pieces. So they had observed flood outlines, or some places were missing totally. So they're kind of not uniform data, but our study helped in establishing or coming up with this kind of maps. So because these are all GIS based, they can use it for multiple other decision making. So on the right side, you can see a table here. So where it will show that. So there are multiple asset types. That means roads, agricultural buildings, or something like that. So in a 5-year event, how many roads are getting impacted? In a 1 in 100-year event, what's the length of the road that's getting impacted? So all this kind of quantification was done, and this clearly helped in establishing what's the flood risk. So at the bottom there is a plot. If you look at the blue line, so on the x-axis, if you can't read, that's the probability of flood, and on the y-axis is the damage value. So the closer to 0, it is nothing but a higher flood. Higher flood will have a higher damage value. So it's nothing but a summary of the table that's shown above. So this is establishing the baseline flood risk, and hydraulic models have helped a lot here. So next one about so how it can help in looking into the future. That means we want to protect the country, let's say. We want to protect it down. So what are the things that we need to do today so that our future is safe from flooding and we can maybe focus somewhere else? Because uh, if you do not protect the communities from the disasters, you will need to pay your attention every now and then to the damages caused by those disasters, and you will not be able to focus elsewhere. Every year floods come and hit, and all focus from the government goes towards that. So in that case, the government will never be able to focus on something else. So hence, protection for the future is quite important. So you can see on the map for the same case which I mentioned, we came up with a number of flood mitigation options. It could be constructing a flood wall, or raising an existing flood wall, or it could be a new culvert, or it could be a bypass channels, something like that. A number of flood mitigation options after discussing with the government departments, various stakeholders. So which one should we go ahead? Was the question. So we again represented each of these options in the hydraulic models. For example, if I want to build a flood embankment, I will raise the terrain at that location and re-simulate the model. So that will simulate the flooding mechanism by considering a flood embankment in that place, and will tell how many properties are now safe from flooding. So we took this capability of hydraulic models to undertake a combination of two or more options also. So whether we need to go for one or multiple, so what are the benefits? So a lot of permutation combinations can be done. And in each of these scenarios, how much is the damage that we are going to prevent? So whether one is very significantly better than the other, whether reduced damage means more economic benefits. So these kind of wider questions we were able to answer. And the economic feasibility of these options is the end result that we do for any of these kind of feasibility studies, where, okay, let's say we have 10 number of options. Which one is better if government wants to take that forward? So we need to see what's the economic feasibility. So I will just give that. Yeah, so economic feasibility, you can see that this is one such example here, where the number of beneficiaries, you can see 1 in 25 year, and even there is so many properties, etc. But what you can note here is construction cost of some flood embankment is 19.1 million US dollars, whereas the reduction in the damage is average annual damage. That means every year you're going to save 1.52 million. So it is like investing today 19 million, and every year you are going to save 1.52 million. So how economically feasible is that? So these kind of situations, simulations we can do, and ultimately take a call. So just moving back, how do we consider the impact of climate change is another important point which we might be interested, because uh, all these assessments, it really included the climate change in specific ways to that country. So within the UK, the government has clearly given some guidelines. So if you go to this link, it will talk about some specific percentage uplifts that we need to apply for any flow hydrograph, for example. That means you have some flow today, and if our planning horizon is, let's say, next 50 years, and if you want to consider a kind of worst case, they will have a particular number to say that, okay, you uplift the peak by 25% or 50% or something like that. So that is based on some solid, again, some specific analysis that they have done for the UK. And similarly for Sri Lanka, the project that I mentioned, we came up with 3 type of climate change scenarios, which is optimistic, pessimistic, and an average type of scenario. So that means if everything, so this was derived after a combination of the multiple, we had GCMs, and then all this statistical downscaling, everything was done, and came up with some scenarios which are specific for the Sri Lanka, where if everything goes well, then it is optimistic, and if it doesn't, then it's pessimistic and an average scenario. By considering, let's say, no basin development, that means we do not have any increase in the population. We do not have any change in the land use from whatever that is there today. That is one set of scenarios. Or it can be an increased population or a land use change. So all these at a very high level, whatever the government policy makers they consider. So everything can be incorporated into the hydrology that we use within the simulations, and hence it will predict the flooding based on all these climate change impacts. So if we look at somewhere else, how Australia is considering, there were some similar to UK, but so Australia has a specific methodology called ARR, or Australian Rainfall and Runoff. They do not specify any particular climate change scenario, whereas each and every state or territory have their own guidelines, or every council they have come up with their own guidelines. So what I want to highlight is across the globe, climate change impacts are considered differently. So some of them they mandate it. For example, in the UK, if you want to construct any major infrastructure project, it has to consider the climate change into account. So whether we are going to design for the 100-year, 1 in 100-year event, or a major scheme such as railways, etc., they will be designed so that it operates even in 1,000 years. Whereas some of the critical infrastructure like a nuclear power plant can be designed to 1 in 10,000 year type of standard of protection. So climate change impacts really vary, but we need to be basing our judgments based on the solid scientific evidence. And this is just a map which tells, for example, a basic GIS operation. So first we established what was the baseline flood risk, and what was the future scenario. So if you take the difference of both, it will give the difference. So the difference can be, let's say, flood depth. That means if you are taking 2 flood depth layers and considering the difference between them, so it will tell what is the difference in the flood depth between a present day scenario and a future scenario. Or these similar logic can be applied, for example, to let's say what are the damages that you are having. So you establish a baseline flood risk, and you calculate the damage in the present day. And similarly, we do the same thing for the future. And if you take the difference between the two, it can give where are we going to have a major difference. So all these are very much reliant on the advancements in the GIS. So nowadays it is quite easy to make decisions based on the visualization, etc., as I mentioned earlier. And so the last aspect about how do we design for the future. So any of our infrastructure schemes, they need to be sustainable as well as safe, because a huge money is involved. And how do we ensure that the money is the monies that the government is going to spend is very meaningful? So two aspects to consider. So the image that I have put here is a flood map from the UK. Where currently our company is working on a project called Lower Thames Crossing. So the red line indicates the two locations which are to be connected, and the major highway needs to cut through the river Thames. So how are we going to develop, or what are the major points that we consider are highlighted here? So one is impact to the scheme itself. That means whenever we are going to build something, so how are we going to ensure that it operates safely during a flood? So we don't want, let's say, we build a new road and it gets flooded every now and then. So thereby it doesn't become usable during the times that we need. So then it doesn't serve the purpose. So if the road is designed in such a way that it operates effectively even during flood, that means it could be healthcare facilities or food supply or any logistics can be ensured even during the time of crisis. So only then we can say that that particular infrastructure is safe from flooding. So that is the first thing. So these flood models, they will help in identifying what is the maximum level of what is the maximum water level at that location. And once we build or once we represent any new major scheme that is proposed and resimulate the model, whether it is going to get overtopped or whether it is safe from flooding. So these type of um, queries can be answered if we incorporate any new infrastructure within the hydraulic model. Uh, it can be, I mean, hydraulic models need not be for a large infrastructure scheme, but it can as well be for even single housing developments. There are some projects which we have done where even small houses can be, it is quite common in some other geographies to go for a planning application. That means, so before constructing anything, we need to ensure that whatever we are going to build is not causing a problem to anyone else. So only then it will be approved. So that's first thing. So impact to the scheme itself. So the second is impact from the scheme. Okay, so if we have approval and we have a lot of money, so if we build something today, so how is that going to cause any impact to someone else? So this is a major question that we need to answer because often we hear that because somebody constructed something, it could be a major large infrastructure um, project, someone else is getting impacted. So we need to ensure that any extra or additional flooding that are arising because we are obstructing a flow path. It needs to be accounted somehow. Either we can store the water temporarily, or we can go with any other mitigation measures, as I mentioned in the first few slides. So both can be achieved using the hydraulic models. So both impact to the scheme and also impact from the scheme to the neighboring environment. So it's not just human beings, but what I have done in the past is where we identified that um, developing an area into something else results in a increased frequency somewhere else. So increased frequency could mean that it could be an aquatic environment where it is getting flooded every now and then. And hence it might not be good for the local species that are present there. So probably it did not flood that frequently earlier, but now it floods very often. So hence there can be environmental concerns. So it can be many things like this. So where the hydraulic models help in identifying both magnitude as well as the frequency of flooding due to any change in the catchment. So nowadays, as I mentioned, there are some new flood mitigation measures such as soft engineering, the natural flood management, and SUDS. So although these are quite, I mean, it's picking up elsewhere. We do not. I mean, so it is quite difficult to achieve in a urban setting. So hard engineering measures or constructing flood walls, embankments, that's one thing. Whereas the soft engineering measures, the left one is called as a swale, where we typically see along the roads. We have some kind of ditches where it will hold the water and then help in the percolation. And second image is of a rain garden. So where it can be a local small area where the rooftop water can be infiltrated. I mean, within various cities like Bangalore, so there are many. I mean, the government is trying to come up with, let's say, rainwater harvesting, etc., etc. Some of them have been successful, some of them they are not. But what we want is probably we are underestimating the um, power of these small measures. Ultimately, what we need a flood to be attenuated. So the right side hydrograph, it talks for the exactly what I want to say. So we have a increased, or we have a very very high flow, the blue line, but we don't want that much of high flow, and we want to restrict it to some lesser number. How are we going to reduce the magnitude of a peak? So we need to have maybe thousands of these kind of rain gardens or whales or any of these. So only then we will be able to do. So alone, if I try to do, probably it's not going to work. Maybe two people, it's not going to work. It should be like a community effort. And I'll not talk greatly about this because there are challenges, pros and cons, debates, a lot of things going on about so let's say even a simple rainwater harvesting system in cities like Bangalore. But we all know that it will help. But what I want to stress here is the impact of these can also be shown using the hydraulic models. So if we have within a catchment, if we have 2,000 rainwater gardens, so how much reduction in the peak flow are we going to get at the end of the catchment? So how much less stress it's going to put on the existing drainage system? So these are the type of questions that can be answered if we have got the model. And with this, I'd like to end my slides about what we are going to do about the future. So the future, as I mentioned, we are the crossroads where we both want to focus on the environment as well as we want to develop. And there is climate change, a lot of things happening. Um, so one aspect that caught my attention was um, a vision from the Scottish Water. Scottish Water is similar to, let's say, our BWSSP for the Scotland. So this is one of the client that company works. So have uh, just I was going through their vision plan. So what they believe is the expert in there. They believe that the future lies in building sustainable solutions rather than bigger sewers. So what we might think that, okay, today we have a city and we have an existing drainage system. So the government might be very much optimistic about, okay, we will double the capacity of sewers. So we'll put a new major drains, we'll put bigger pipes, we'll do all those. But how bigger can we go is the question. Let's say in the next 50 years, population is going to, let's say, get doubled, whatever it is. So whether we really want to go for bigger and bigger pipes, or can we take a step back and look at some sustainable solutions? Because building bigger and bigger pipes will have its own challenges. We definitely cannot make them sustainable. And the future lies in building these sustainable solutions. That means probably going back to how the catchment was behaving in its primitive state. That means when no building or nothing was there, so probably there was runoff, there was some good amount of infiltration. So whether can we mimic that kind of situation today with the available technology? So that is the future that I think about. So a sustainable future, it really depends on a great vision. That means we need to be really looking forward. We need to have good visionaries. It cannot be, it is not possible if we are having some selfish goals, but we really need to think for a long term. Long term could be really long term. Of course, it's good to have short term vision. But yeah, so we really need a vision. And without that, we can't see the future. And technology is helping a lot. So technology is the future. So specific to flood modeling, although I have mentioned about, let's say, the hardware and software, but often we hear about AI and its capabilities. I have deliberately not brought any AI element into this because it is so much going to change our lives. So what I am talking today might not be relevant after 6 months in terms of the in the pace that it's going. And technology is the game changer, and we need to embrace the technology to come up with a solution. We can definitely make use of this technology. How it's going to create a better future for everyone. And collaboration. So the collaboration is a must. I'm not saying that, let's say, different government agencies within the state or a nation, it should be restricted to that, but it could be at a global collaboration. So it can start from individual, how we collaborate with, let's say, it could be between our own um, maybe research groups, or it could be at a very global level between multiple things. And without collaboration, I think it's never going to work, because a climate change or a extreme event increase happening somewhere else is directly impacting somewhere else. We are seeing the increased evidences. So something somewhere it floods something, but it might have a different cascading impact even locally here, although we might be geographically um, far apart. So hence, a greater collaboration in sharing any ideas or anything is quite important, and we cannot leave anything without climate action. All our designs need to consider how we are going to ensure that it is safe from, it is climate resilient. So hence, the money, every rupee that we are going to spend today should be considering any designs that we make today should be resilient about the climate change and its impacts. So only by considering all this, I feel that we can achieve a sustainable future. So with this, I have given some references here, but it's maybe from a very high level. I have briefly talked about my experiences, but would really appreciate because really appreciate a encouragement and collaboration from all the scholars and academicians here, and research groups and everyone, because you are all more influential than me alone, and we have a greater goal to achieve for the future. So alone, I or you cannot do, but collectively, I think we can do. So there is if you could inspire, let's say 10 other people to think about how we build a sustainable future, I think that's much more successful than what everybody or an individual does. So with that, I'd like to stop here, but happy to take any questions. So I'm not sure if I rushed through that, but
Yes, sir.
so happy to expand
Thank
on.
you so much for your informative sessions and very useful case studies. Now the platform is open for the participants and the audience to clarify your doubts if you have something. There is a person called Girish. What he is asking in the chat box, is there any chance to make water vault in Bengaluru to control the floods in roads that usually happen every time it rains, so that it can recirculate for daily usage and fill the lakes?
Yes, sir. It's so there are some underground storages elsewhere that I have seen, and we also have recommended where it stores the water for a temporary time, and it can be purified and used for non-potable purpose. It is feasible.
And there is one doubt that it was raised by some person, Dr. Chandrasekharappa. Sir, can you ask your question?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
I'm Dr. Chandrasekhar from BMS College of BMS Student of Technology and Management, Bangalore, sir.
Yes, sir. Continue.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. My question is, so in Bangalore, especially this, most of the areas, where especially the lowland areas, even in a 1 hour of rain, it gets flooded. It's not 1 year, 2 year. It's every year it's happening. Is there any permanent solution for diverting that river? I mean, by diverting that water and can connecting to the lake? Because we have more than 100 the lakes are in Bangalore. So is it possible, or how best we can give the solution for that? Any idea?
Yes, sir. I think so. So it requires maybe definitely a support from these kind of hydraulic models where we need to first quantify how much is the water that's going to come. So without which we will be in a very difficult position to undertake any mitigation measure. But first thing would be to get this, let's say, any type of hydraulic model which will help in understanding the existing, as you mentioned that the moment it rains, there will be some flood. That means water has no where to go. It cannot infiltrate, and maybe the drain's capacity could be very small. So the problems identification is it can be very easily done using hydraulic models. Whether the drainage itself is a issue, or whether we have, let's say, some building or something which is blocking the flow path. So this kind of uh, queries, or we can get answers to those kind of queries using a detailed study. But from a high level, uh, so infiltration should be prioritized. Only then I think it will reduce the magnitude of the flow.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. But in Bangalore city, I think it's most of it is covered by the concrete road.
Yes,
It
yes,
is less infiltration and more runoff is happening nowadays.
yes, yes. That's the biggest
So,
challenge. Yes, sir.
biggest challenges. Thank you so much for your suggestion, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Chaitra, Miss Chaitra has also raised hands. You can clarify your doubts, madam. Chaitra M. Okay. There is one question from Sushim Shinde. A lot of technology and infrastructure projects have been accomplished by Japan, US, such as water volt system. Why can't we implement the same in here? Please suggest policies, if any.
Well, I'm not sure about the policy, but the water vault system is definitely there within the UK. So where it is kind of holding the water for some time, and we are able to release the water after the flood is. I mean, slowly it is resembling the graph that I had shown. So that is operating in some countries, although that might not be a preferred approach because of its own cost implications, but it is possible and it is working. So here, whether it works or not, we need to do some similar, let's say it could be cost benefit analysis. And to give you a brief context about this cost benefit analysis, so from in one of the basin that I worked in Sri Lanka, so we took something like 13 flood mitigation options and did all the assessments, identified how many properties are safe from flooding once you put that flood mitigation option in place, and identified what are the reduction in the flood damage. Finally, we mentioned that none of the flood mitigation options are economically viable, although technically they are. That means from the science or from the perspective of hydraulic modeling, we say that okay, 10 properties are now safe from flooding. But to construct such a mitigation measure, it requires you to invest a lot of money. Rather, you allow them to get flooded every now and then and pay them some money for the people who are impacted. So that kind of situations might also be it might also be possible. So hence, what works where we need to really work out on what are the benefits of such a system. So might not be wise to say that, okay, flood embankment will work everywhere, or a flood or a water vault system will work everywhere. So it needs to be assessed on a location by location basis.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
There is a question from Lavanya Vaishnavi. Madam, you want to ask? You have written in
Yes,
the...
sir. Good
Yes.
evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, as we see, there were a lot of lakes before in Bengaluru. So now, as we know, everything is getting vanished. So is there any alternative means we can save the water or rebuild this lakes within the state or within that given geographical area?
It could be very tricky because different policies of the government will prioritize what they want to do. So we have seen that many of them are encroached, and the only permanent solution will be to bring it back to what it was there earlier, which might not be practically possible because people have already built. And so how do
Is
we
there,
ask? Yeah.
sorry to disturb you, sir. Is there any sustainable solution, like coexisting solutions for this?
It might not be matching 100% to how it was providing benefit, but
Okay.
we can definitely have this kind of small measures, because climate change is not in our hand. That means we'll accept that whatever the increased magnitude of the flooding we are going to receive over Bangalore, let's say, it is going to be there. So how we are going to handle that is going to be the question. So when we can't control how much it will rain, but we definitely have options on how we handle that. So it is like community effort, as I mentioned earlier. So in a urban setting, the lesser that so we need to release the water slowly so that it doesn't flood. So how are we going to release the water slowly? We can hold it at multiple locations. Holding means it might not be constructing artificial detention basin, but it has to be like a small rain garden. Of course, every inch of land is very precious in cities like Bangalore. So how we are again going to achieve that small efforts is also very challenging, and it requires a lot of collective effort from all individuals. And yeah, practically what is possible, what is not possible is again going to be a debate. But I would say that these small measures will have, small measures done at a large scale will definitely have an impact.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. This is Suma.
Good evening, ma'am.
Sir, as a continuation with Lavanya ma'am, so what I see in Bangalore is, actually we don't make it compulsory for rainwater harvesting. This is there from past few years, but before,
Yes.
like past 10 years and down, we didn't have this this one groundwater, this one, okay, rainwater harvesting. That is one thing. And second thing, the BWD SSP, right? They are not connecting the sewage. First of all,
Yes.
there is no link in the this sewage water flowing. So I think these are the two major cause for the flood also. And apart
Yes.
from that, as all of you know that it's a riverbed, all lakes are taken encroached. So do you think this rainwater harvesting will have some impact on a little bit of controlling the flood, rainwater harvesting as well as connecting the sewage properly?
Yes, definitely it will have an impact. Rainwater harvesting done at a larger scale will have an impact, as I mentioned earlier. But how other countries are thinking is, let's say whenever there is a rain, so we have a combined sewer system, which will put a lot of pressure on the treatment plants, and everything gets clogged.
Yes.
So they're trying to, in other geographies, they're trying to separate out the runoff due to the rainfall at the source itself, collecting
Yes.
the runoff generated color separately and then handling it separately is going to be much better for the future than having a combined system which will put a lot of pressure on the existing drainage network.
Yeah, because Bangalore doesn't have that kind of floods like North India, right? It's a normal flood. Once in a while it happens. But I think the government should take care of these things because we see that they don't connect the sewage properly. Then all the gutters are closed. All the gutters in front of in the residential areas are closed. So we have occupied even that footpath and all that place. So maybe this may be one of the reason for causing the flood.
Yes, madam.
If it is connected properly and the outlet is proper, I don't think so flood will be there in Bangalore. That's what I feel like. You may tell me.
Yeah, there are definitely multiple stakeholders involved.
Yeah,
in
like you said, it's a small measure. What I wanted to tell is it's a small measure. I think the community should also take care along with the government.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Can we have one more question? Chaitra and Jayanna Karegowder has raised hand. Anyone of you can ask the question. Yeah. Any other person who have doubts? We shall take the last question and we shall conclude the session. Any doubts to that needs to be clarified? Right.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please, sir.
Sir, can I?
Yeah, continue, sir.
Yeah.
We shall be taking
Right,
this time.
Sir, Prabhanjan sir, is there any early warning system for the for lowland areas? Say, for example, so and so much of rain, of rain. Within 1 hour or 2 hours. Is there any early warning system, sensors, planning have in the Bangalore city? Early warning system for the people or messages so that they can evacuate, because most of the time it happens. Is there any planning for that?
Sir, your mic is muted.
Yeah. Yes, sir, we can hear.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, as far as I am aware, IISc was working on the urban floods project for Bangalore, where a hydraulic model based system was in place, but I'm not sure about a early warning system. But I was a part of a project for Krishna and Bhima basins, where the towns of Sangli, Karad, and Pune, so they were covered under a early warning system. So such system can be developed for any geography. So if we have good data, and it is possible.
Right. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think we have sufficient data for Bangalore city for land use land cover, and there are many SRs are working on many things. I think they have sufficient data. I think it could be very helpful for Bangalore city people. Otherwise, it could be a problem for every rainy season, even now. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, sir. We appreciate the knowledge that you have shared, especially the case studies that you had worked upon on various flood scenarios, focusing mainly incorporating the climate change conditions and how we can manage these floods sustainably in future. I wholeheartedly thank you for your precious time when you have a very say uncomfortable health conditions. Thank you so much for your efforts, sir. We appreciate that, and I thank all the participants to be with us today. And we shall meet you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Not 6:30, 6 p.m. as per the schedule. With the third session that we will start. Thank you so much, Prabhanjan, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, all the participants. Have a very pleasant night. Good night. Thank you. Thank you, sir.